Hey everybody, today is January 9th, so we'll be looking at January 8th MTG stocks. There's actually a few pretty decent price spikes in here, so we'll kind of look at those a little bit more today. You see there's a lot of mystery booster stuff, tons of mystery booster stuff, and then we'll see that we have some pretty big percent increases in the since last week section. So we'll go ahead and go to our first card, which is Liquify. Liquify went from 95 cents to $2. This is from the Dual Decks Anthology version. Liquify is a 1 colorless, 1 green, tribal enchantment, Tree Folk Aura. Enchanted creature is a Tree Folk with base power and toughness 0/4 and loses all abilities. This is basically a good way, at least in Commander, if they get their commander out, you enchant them with this, they basically have lost their commander until they can deal with that enchantment. I'd probably say it's a little bit worse than passivism, because passivism is they can't attack or block, but they can still use their abilities and get other things like that. But I think there's another white one where they basically can't use their activated abilities, but this one can really shut down that person, and that's probably why it's increased a little bit. It seems like the lore win and stuff haven't increased yet, but they might here soon. I wouldn't doubt it. They haven't already. So our next card here is Tainted Pact. Tainted Pact went from $27 to $41.20. This is a pretty big price increase, and this is only reprinted once here, so that's probably why it has been so expensive in an increase. But let's go ahead and see what it does. It costs 1 colorless, 1 black, and an instant, and then you exile the top card of your library. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card exiled this way. Repeat this process until you put a card into your hand or you exile 2 cards with the same name, whichever comes first. So this is basically a way to potentially, you can probably mill yourself out with this. I'm sure people have done that if they're trying to get like a Labman Maniac win. Because basically what will happen is if you have a different card in your deck for everything, you will basically, unless that has the same, okay, so you exile it, and then you can put it into your hand, unless it has the same name as another card exiled this way. Repeat this process until you put a card into your hand, or you exile 2 cards with the same name. So basically this turns into, repeat this process until you put a card into your hand. Oh, never mind, okay. So yeah, you still can exile your whole thing, basically. The main thing will be is that, so if you get a forest, or I guess let's go swamp. So if you exile the top card of your library, it's a swamp. And the next card that you exile on your library is a swamp, then this effect will end. The other way to do it is if you're basically tutoring for something, you exile the top card of your library, it's a swamp. Exile the next one, it's a plains. Exile the next one, it's a demonic tutor. Exile the next one, it's exsanguate. And let's say you're really wanting to have exsanguate at this moment. So once you draw that exsanguate, the effect ends. So, like I said, for a Labman build, this wouldn't be bad, because you basically say Tainted Pact, and if you've kind of built your deck not to have anything the same, then you have a 100% chance to mill your whole deck. But if you have multiple basic lands, which probably most people do, you may have that one odd chance where you get 2 swamps in a row or something like that. Still a very neat card. I'm sure this has been seeing play, I don't know if it'd be Commander or someone like bought it out or whatever. Regardless of that, it's still a pretty neat card. I like the idea of a tutor that does this. There's a couple of other cards that kind of do this as well, but this one seems to be much more consistent in what you're trying to do, I'd say. So for our third card of the night, we have Shielded by Faith. Shielded by Faith went from 56 cents to about $3.19, at least for the Signature Spellbook. As we can kind of see, it seems like the other ones have kind of gone up a little bit too, at least. Or they're above what $1 at least. And what Shielded by Faith does is a 1 colorless, white enchantment aura. Enchanted creature has indestructible, which is pretty nice. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach this to that creature. So what's kind of nice about this is, so if you're a white deck, you probably have a decent amount of low-cost creatures. So basically, turn 2, you put out a knight or something. Maybe it has double strike. I don't know. Then from that, you would on turn 3 attach Shield of Faith to it, and then on turn 4, if you get a bigger creature out, then you just attach it to that creature. And then you just keep doing that for bigger and bigger creatures. This would probably be decent for like angels or something, because angels cost more, and you want to protect them as much as you can. So pretty neat. I also like the I like the designs of the spellbook cards. The spellbook cards I like, seems pretty, I don't know. I like the borders, and I like the little circle more than, I guess, the oval. But and I don't know, looks good. Looks good. But neat card. I like it. Going good to the 4th card, which is Hermit Drude. Hermit Drude went from about 768 to 1892. And this was from the Stronghold set. There's also the Judge one here, which is a lot more expensive, as we can see. But this is a fairly infamous card in CEDH, I'd say, at least to some degree. I think this was like one of the first cards that was basically on the CEDH kind of thing. Like someone was like, oh, you can get Hermit Drude out, and you can just mill everything that you need, and then graveyard deck and blah blah blah. Or I forget what the combo is exactly. I think you're trying to get like a yeah, you can just mill out your whole library, and then I guess you can win through a lab man as well. But I think it is actually more of you're trying to get like specific creatures in your graveyard, and you basically just put very few or no basic lands in your whole deck. I guess you can also just get like the full reanimation suite where you're just like, hey, bring back all creatures from graveyard and put them out in the field. There's a lot of things you can do with this, and that's why it's very good in Commander, especially CEDH, is this because if you're doing a dredge deck, you can get like a third of your graveyard, or a third of your deck into your graveyard, or even more. Pretty crazy. I guess I should actually explain what this thing does, which Hermit Drude is a 1 colorless green. He's a creature human druid. And his ability here is you can pay green and tap him, and you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a basic land card. Put that card into your hand, and all other cards revealed this way into your graveyard. So basically, you're drawing for a land, and then everything else goes to the graveyard. And as I was saying before, it's a very powerful effect. It's one of those things where if you're just putting this in any old deck, it doesn't do a lot, but if you can tune your deck around this card, it's pretty good. And then for our Commander of the Night, we have Wort, Boggart, Anti. This is the card I'll be using for my Rakdos tribal deck. This will be a Goblin tribal deck. This costs 2 colorless, black and red. It is a 3/3 legendary creature, Goblin Shaman, and it has Fear. So Fear can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target Goblin card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is basically going to be a dredge / graveyard deck. It's kind of neat to get out of the Golgari colors in the sense of Golgari is more infamous for dredging, but black still has quite a decent amount of dredge cards. At least there's some good ones, like Golgari Thug and Stinkweed Imp is probably the main 2 I can think of. But regardless, you can do other graveyard effects with this, and then you'll get... Basically, this card lets you to draw a goblin every turn if you can start getting enough cards in your graveyard. So it's a very neat card. I think this will be fun to mess with, and kind of to lead into one of the more neat black goblins, because there's a few from the Lorwyn set. That's where they kind of introduced the black goblins. But then in Modern Horizons, this will be our random card for the night. They got another black goblin, which is the Sling-Gang Lieutenant. This costs 3 colorless, a black. It's a creature goblin. When he enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, which is pretty nice. It's 4 mana, make 3 goblins. So it's not like the best thing in the world, but it's still decent. But the other really good thing is that sacrifice a goblin, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. if you have Wort out, for instance, every upkeep you can get this back. So if you wanted to, you could basically just be like, okay, I make 2 creature tokens, I sacrifice those off, and then before my upkeep on the person's end step, you can sacrifice him off if you have no other goblins in your graveyard. He comes back, and then on your upkeep with Wort, he's in your graveyard, you bring it back to your hand, and then you can summon 2 more goblin tokens. So it has very good value with Wort, I would say. Of course, having the sacrifice outlet is pretty nice too. Not that this was supposed to be specifically a sacrifice deck, but having a couple of sacrifice outlets in it is not a bad idea either. So very neat card. Always like the idea of the Rakdos goblins. And then, as always, we'll end off our night with a couple of random cards. So random card number 1, Bloodcrazed Neonate? Remember? Kind of, is this an online okay. I was going to say, I noticed the text here. This text up here is a little bit weird looking. It doesn't look quite right. And I was like, this was probably like an online card. Because if you look at the regular version here, the Innistrad, the title looks more, I guess it's like a little bit bigger. And also the one fills the colorless circle a little bit more. Not a big deal, but just kind of noticed. Anyways, this is a Bloodcrazed Neonate. Well, it is a 1 colorless red creature vampire. Bloodcrazed Neonate attacks each combat if able. If it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And this is a vampire, and it's a 2/1. This is okay for a vampire deck, I guess. You can go with Anji. You can make the Rakdos tribal vampire deck and probably be okay in it. But it doesn't. Since it's a 2/1, if it's like a 1/2, I'd probably be a little bit more okay with it because it allows you to protect it just a little bit better. So I don't know. It's not that great. I probably wouldn't put it in a deck, but whatever. Did they make like a? Oh, that's weird. They actually even did like a little promo for it. I do like the art. I think it's a pretty neat artwork. I like how so there's the original Innistrad one, but then I guess for the online they did a different art, or they did this one first. I'm not really sure, but pretty neat. Not bad. And then our second random card for the night is Extract. Well, that's a spooky artwork. Let's get into that a little bit. This guy's, I guess this is like supposed to be an elf, but he's not having a good time, as we can see with his expression here. Took his face apart at the eye level, and whew, it's pretty neat. And then he has his mind coming out. I feel like this is more of a black spell. I mean, I know blue has to deal with minds and stuff, but maybe he's not actually, I guess he's not actually dead, so he's probably just not having fun. Anyways, Extract is a blue sorcery. Search target player's library for a card and exile it. Then that player shuffles their library. Wow. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So I guess you'd have to look at it like there, like surgical extraction, for instance, is kind of like this as well. I guess surgical extraction is a little bit better when you think about it, because it's the other one. But either way, it's either Phyrexian mana or just 1 black mana, whatever one it is. But you gotta like basically take out all their cards of the same type. So in Commander, it's not a huge deal generally, unless they have like a persistent petitioners or whatever it is that allows them to have more than 1 card in their deck, and that way you can just mill out their whole deck basically, which no bueno to them, but you could do it. Extract is nice because you can basically, if you know you're going against a combo player, I think Extract is good, especially if they're relying heavily like maybe like the one where you can gain life for each spell you play, and then you pay 50 life and you deal 50 damage. Like basically, if you know that's a huge part of their deck, you can do that. It's probably be a more targeted thing, but it's still not bad because you can see what's in the person's deck, and then you find out what their biggest threat is and get rid of that. So pretty neat card. I didn't even know this existed. Being $4 isn't too bad, but pretty neat. I like these old Odyssey sets and things like that. like Tempest and etc. They're fun stuff. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.